Throughout all the projects that I've been doing, for the final project I would want to make one with meaning, and the only way I thought doing that was to look at different things that have meaning. So then I thought, oh, bullying that has meaning for a lot of people, just how people have been bullied, and I was first going to have it so first person view would be a recreation of the experiences. But then when I actually got to interviewing people, I thought this would be too much work. So I scrapped that idea and just had it down to the interviews. On my research, I looked at the conventions of a documentary and different stuff that I needed, and then I started to look at different things that have meaning. For instance, in America, you have a lot of gun violent videos, so pretty much just came from that, and then the bullying just kind of went in. I didn't actually go into depth that far with the research looking into bullying. Like, I did look at a few videos, but they're hard to find because you don't have many documentaries on bullying, and if you do, they're not the ones that I kind of think would help me with mine. So I did look at a few, but some of them were just one story of a kid, not multiple, and others were just little recreations. Yeah, it did help, but I didn't really think I gained a lot from them. Just little ideas like where to, or just how to film it and who to film with and what bits to have in the interview. I think I achieved, just the end product really. I'm proud of it. I like the way it turned out. I like having all the different B-roll and the way it goes from day to night, because that's kind of a nice effect to it. I also like having the anonymous person at the end to obviously show, yeah, they've been cut out, but you can still tell if you know the person who it is. But I'm also happy with how I actually did that as well, because I was meant to have the voice muffled, but it was very difficult to do it on Final Cut, so I just scrapped it and just had his normal voice, but had him blacked out. So couldn't tell who he was unless you knew the person. It probably just adds the effect that a lot of people have stories, and some of the stories are difficult to say, and that all the stories are true. It just adds the feeling that you can relate to it, pretty much. And it's just, some people feel like they're in the position of that person. Weaknesses were probably, I'd say, the research and the stuff coming up to the final piece, mainly due to the fact that either I didn't know what I was doing, or I knew what I was doing, but I just didn't take into account the work I had to do. For instance, the storyboards and all that stuff, I researched it and found out there's not a lot of storyboards or shot lists for documentaries, so I just went with it like it was just an interview, kind of just went with it. I didn't really take into account the planning that I would need for it, but if I ever do it again, I'll obviously need to create a proper schedule and try not to be influenced by my friends to go out and stuff like that, and try and work better. I say it's very important just due to the fact that a lot of stuff can't actually happen. For instance, if you have to film on one day, you can't just say, oh yeah, I'll do this on the day before. You need to be ready in case something goes wrong, or if you need to change anything, you can easily quickly look back and say, oh, I need to change this, so you don't have to create a new thing for it. I made a few changes. First was with the anonymous person. The audio was bad. It kept slipping out of the video that I got, and I have explained on the blog what went wrong, what I tried to do to fix it, how to cut it up and then put it together again, but it didn't work. So I had to film it again and do the audio again, but it was a nicer shot, but the audio still kind of synced out. But with the new one I got, you couldn't really tell because it was a lot darker, so I just used that one because no one could tell, and it still kind of worked with. The other thing that I changed was with Kieran's, the first person I interviewed. His full interview was about 13 minutes long by itself, and I cut it down so it was just about 3 to 4 minutes, because he talked a lot about different experiences that he had and different ways that people have been bullied. And yes, that is very important, but I was more focused on one story that he had, and so yeah, I just had to cut it down to that bit, and then I added B-roll in places where you can tell where it's been cut, whether or not it's the different shot that's been used, or different lighting, or sudden jump in the sentence. Next time I would be very careful with what I choose, make sure it's not too difficult, make sure it's in my comfort zone, but also go out of my comfort zone, depending on if it's, or just experiment, really. to see what I can get for my final project, and just plan a lot better this time with everything that I do, and make sure I upload the actual final piece for it to be marked, and make sure I've got everything done and dusted for it.